So that denotes that he's not even reading it at the time. He wasn't even. It's just a photo op to him to try to appease the religious in this country. Like, they're too stupid to understand, and he's only doing that for a photo. That he's not really doing it for any reason except for, hey, I need a photo op. But yeah, that's one thing I just wanted to bring up, because I keep hearing all these sound bites from President Trump talking tough, talking about soldiers and police officers and not being nice and doing this to people and doing that. Yeah, I want you to do this and do it hard. You know what I'm saying? Step on their toe. Smack them upside the head. Pinch the butt. Grab them by the pussy. He talks tough, but he's not tough. That man's not tough. He's never been tough his whole life. Okay, when you avoid going to the service because you have a rich daddy, which a lot of rich people have done that for their children. If I was rich, I would have tried to do it. I might not have succeeded because my two boys, who are adults, they joined the service on their own, and one of them actually did go to the Middle East and fight during the war after 9/11, which is probably a war that we never should have had, because we didn't really send our soldiers over into an area where the terrorists were, that had anything to do with 9/11. So that was President Bush, though, whose idea it was to start that whole mess. But anyway, President Trump, he's had opportunities to prove he's a tough guy, and he only talks tough. He's not tough. All right, it's easy, to stand back behind a wall of men it's their job to protect you and talk tough. When he had the opportunity to prove that he's a tough guy, he didn't do it. He ran from it. He ran. He went to Canada to hide out while his rich daddy paid off a doctor to tell the government he has bone spurs and he can't join the service. So anybody listening to this, just remember that every time you see a speech where President Trump is talking tough. You know who's tough? Not President Trump, but you know who is tough? Wonder Mike. If anybody remembers, if you're too young, I'll give you an education on who Wonder Mike is. Wonder Mike is a rap artist from the Sugar Hill Gang. It was one of the first rap groups ever to hit the scene publicly in the 70s, late 70s. A group called the Sugar Hill Gang had one of the rappers. They had three guys. One of them was named was Wonder Mike. The reason I said he's tough because I think the song was called Rapper's Delight. He's talking about in that song, he's talking about hooking up with Lois Lane, but she tells him she has a boyfriend named Superman. And Wonder Mike, he makes fun of Superman. He says, "Oh, he looks like a sucker in a blue and red suit. He may hit it with his little worm, but I can bust you out with my super sperm." Now that's tough, boy. You're talking trash to Superman. I mean, this guy is from another planet. He can easily kill you, dude. You're hitting on his woman, and you're talking crap about him. So Wonder Mike is tough. It's a lot tougher than President Trump. I was listening to Rapper's Delight earlier, and I had forgotten the lyrics until I heard that part of the song where he says, that Superman's flying through the air with pantyhose. He looks like a sucker in a blue and red suit. He may hit it with his little worm, but I can bust you out with my super sperm. Oh, maybe it's just me, but I'm not sure if women want you to have super sperm. Not unless it makes their baby a superhero, then that'd be cool. You know what I'm saying? I wish I had some super sperm then for the 3 kids that I have. If they were born and all had super abilities, you know, physically. It can jump higher than everybody else, run faster, stronger, you know what I'm saying? Able to leap buildings in a single bound. Then, you know, as long as a woman could carry these kids to term and have them, that'd be sweet. But no, that's not the case. So I doubt if any chick wants you to have super sperm. you might damage her, dude. So that's not impressive. I can bust you out with my super sperm. Please don't. Please do not. But anyway, that's just some silly stuff that I was thinking about earlier. But I want to talk a little bit about just a little bit about George Floyd, because all the protests started because of George Floyd's death by the police officer in Minneapolis, Derek Chauvin, who knelt with his knee on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And I seen this post on Facebook, which I shared, where there was a black man laying on the sidewalk. And the post said, I seen the police coming, so I just decided to play dead and to just lay on down and act like I'm dead. And I added to the post and says, knowing that they'll just drive on by if they think you're dead and you're black. But you know what? The police, they knocked down in Buffalo, New York. They knocked that 75-year-old guy down. And he hit his head on the concrete and was knocked out for a little while and was bleeding out of one ear, and they still just walked on by. So if they walk by, you know, a white man because they're pissed off that he's protesting in the first place, you know they're going to walk by a black man, you know what I'm saying, like myself. So they're going to be like, keep moving, nothing to see here. Keep it moving. So anyway, that was the post. But I want to talk a little bit about George Floyd, because as I mentioned before, I'm having a lot of problems with non-racist white people. And here's why. Because non-racist white people, not all of them, it's never all. Every time you say something, you're always going to have people say, well, I don't do this and I don't do that. And I'm like, well, I'm not talking about you then. Jerk off, shut up. But non-racist white people who deny racism even exists. I had an argument on Facebook with my ex-wife, which she tried to talk about how the Confederate flag was, you know, created for all these different things and meaning all these different things. And not in one instance there did she mention anything about slavery. It was all nice little Christians making this nice little flag to fight for their freedom and independence from the U.S. I'm like, you know what? This is bullshit. The guy who created that flag done it because they all had slaves. Not everybody in the South, but a number of rich people in the South had slaves who owned plantations. They had slaves. And they didn't like the fact that Lincoln was going to abolish slavery. They were pissed off about it to the point where they decided to start a war. Now, let's not sugarcoat it. And I get a lot of white people who, not just that point, that's just something I got into it with her about because she's from the South. And she wanted to sugarcoat the fact that 13 states in the South decided to break off from the U.S. and become their own nation and have a war against the U.S. so that they could keep slaves. These guys were so arrogant that they thought, you know what? We don't give a shit about what Lincoln says. Fuck Lincoln. We're going to fight to keep our slaves. Okay? And we're going to fight this war, and when it's over, we keep the slaves and go on about our business as a separate nation. And Lincoln said, no, you don't, Junior. Okay? We will kill you or make you freedom slaves, and you'll still be a part of this nation, jackass. And so I hate when people, and it doesn't matter if you're from the South, don't sugarcoat it. Okay, they had slaves. 13 states in the Civil War fought to keep slaves. They wasn't fighting for their freedom. They were already free. The slaves were the only ones who were not free. Okay, the Confederate flag stands for 13 states. This is their symbol for their own little union. And they want to keep slaves. They weren't 13 little Christian states that just getting picked on by the big bad U.S. and those damn Yankees. No. They were traitors, okay? Those 13 states. All right? They were traitors to the U.S. and they were fighting to keep slaves. So that's the truth of the matter. Anyway, we're going to go to a break. And when we come back, I'm going to finish what I was about to say about George Floyd. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
And now, without further ado, the man we've all been waiting for, T-Jam D. Welcome back to the show.
All right. Yeah. Welcome back to the show. What I was talking about before we went to that break was people talking about George Floyd's rap sheet, which is annoying to me. And then you get the people who cover for him. I guess a guy that I work with who kept posting stuff. He probably kicked me off of his friends list on Facebook because he kept posting dumb shit. He kept posting things about George Floyd's rap sheet. Like, I can't believe everybody is making a big deal out of this career criminal. I'd be like, because the guy was murdered by the police, dumbass. All right. Yeah, but George Floyd once jaywalked in 1972. I'm like, so what, stupid? George Floyd, he once stole an annihilator from Everhart's. I don't care, dummy. Does that mean he deserved to be murdered by the police? Stop telling me about stuff that George Floyd did, okay, in the past, unless you mean that he deserved to be murdered by the police because of this. Like George Floyd, done whatever it was he done, and he deserved to be murdered. Because if you don't mean that, then shut the fuck up, please. All right? The guy was murdered. He just wasn't bit by a dog or something, and people were throwing a fit about it. And you're like, oh, well, George Floyd done a lot of stuff wrong. So him getting bit by a dog is no big deal. He was murdered, Junior. You understand the definition of kill? You understand what dying means. There's no coming back from being dead. You don't want to be dead, do you? Okay, well then shut the fuck up.